Hi everyone! Today I'm sharing part 2 of my process video for the Hexagon explosion box that I created as a guest memory keeping designer for Cocoa Daisy's May 2021 Tranquility Collection. So part 1 was the box construction tutorial, and this second part is just going to be me decorating the panels of all of the box flaps, as well as the lids to all 3 layers of my explosion box. So if you missed part 1, I'll put a link down in the description box below. And if you're here for the decorating ideas, then just keep watching. Before I get started, here's a quick recap of what we've done so far. So far we've constructed the 3 layers of the explosion box, and I've also made the lids for all 3 boxes, as well as decorated the outside panels for all 3 layers of the explosion box as well. So I'm going to get started by decorating the outermost layer of the explosion box, so the largest explosion box. And this layer is going to house stories of kind of like important dates between my boyfriend and I, as well as some key events that we've experienced so far in our relationship. So I've printed out 6 photos in total, and those 6 photos will correspond with the 6 journaling lines that I have numbered down on that noted journaling card, and the numbers came from the memory keeping sticker kit. You can see that on each of the photos. I've also included the corresponding number, and those number stickers I got from the planner add-on kit. Next, I'm just filling out that card that is titled May 2021, so I will be covering up that circle with something else later on, but basically I wanted to include all the important dates, so like when we first messaged each other on the dating app, and when our first date was, etc. And I also included on the side a bracket to show like what year those things happened in, just because it doesn't really give enough space in those tiny labels over there to include the month, date, and also the year of those events. So I've chosen a chipboard piece that says True Story, and I'm also going to be covering this top portion up with some washi tape just to provide that chipboard piece somewhere to be anchored, and that black isn't so harsh against the top of that journaling card there. Next, I'm working on what would be considered kind of like the title card for this hexagon layer here. And I have some of these adhesive backed die cut pieces. One of them says, this is our story. One of them says noted. And another one says our life journey together. And I figured this would be a good starting point to kind of lead the viewer to start at this point and kind of like work their way around clockwise around this hexagon layer. And I decided to back the pattern paper onto that black and white chevron piece just to help make it stand out a bit. And because this is my title card and I want the viewer to go clockwise from this point, I am adding one of those chipboard arrow pieces as well. And of course, a heart to add a bit of coral to that page. Next, I'm just working on some vellum pockets that will go on a couple of these flaps here. And the way I made these was I just measured the vellum piece to be about 1/2 inch taller than I want the pocket to be, and 1 inch wider than I want the pocket to be, so that I have 1/2 inch all the way around those bottom 3 edges of the pocket. And I just used some score tape to adhere those 3 flaps to the back of that pattern piece of paper. And then I just added a chipboard piece to the front of that pocket. This one says, "This is a good story." And I'm going to be creating 2 other pockets in a similar way as well. And I love that this kind of brings a bit more interactivity to my explosion box. For my noted journaling card, I decided to use that black and white chevron again just to help make that card stand out a bit. And just for some added interest, I'm just going to be adhering this kind of at a skewed angle so that it's not exactly centered onto that chevron background paper. And I'm just going to be using my Tim Holtz distressing tool to distress the edges of both of those layers to give it a bit of added interest. I did use my Tim Holtz tiny attacher stapler to staple those pieces together as well. And I added some torn washi tape to the top right corner just to give that piece a bit more of a layered effect. And here I'm just going to be using this stamp set from the memory keeping kit just to add a bit of interest to the bottom right corner as well as the top left corner there. You'll notice that I did the first generation stamping and then a second generation stamping as well, just so that it kind of creates a bit of a messy look to that watercolor type card. Here I'm working on my third vellum pocket. And I've just chosen another chipboard piece to go on that second vellum pocket that I made. That one says, "Remember this." And then for this third vellum pocket, I've chosen a coral piece that says, "Love grows here," and that's one of the adhesive back die cut pieces. Just working on my last panel here, and I decided to back my journaling card onto an extra bit of that Traveler's Notebook card that came in the Traveler's Notebook memory keeping kit. And next I'm moving on to the second layer of my Hexagon explosion box. So this layer I'm going to be focusing on some of the events and highlights that happened within the last year of our relationship. So this is after our first anniversary. And I've chosen kind of 5 highlights to note and a journaling card, mainly because I wanted to use those sticker flags that have the numbers on them. And these came in the Traveler's Notebook memory keeping kit, I believe. So I'm just sticking the number banners onto each of those 5 photos, and I'm going to be using this journaling card that came in one of the free printables to do my journaling on. For my title, I'm choosing this adhesive die cut piece that says, "The best things in life aren't things." And to make my numbers match the banner numbers on each of the photos, I'm going to be using this stamp set. This came in, it was like a free bonus stamp set that came as like an incentive for new CocoDZ subscribers. And I thought those banner numbers matched perfectly with the stickers that I had on each of those photos. And so I just stamped one of the numbers in each one of those 5 color swatch squares on the left side, and then wrote down the date as well as what event was happening at that time. Moving on to the third layer of my explosion box. For this layer, I decided to focus on 4 things that my boyfriend and I enjoy on a regular basis now. And for each of those 4 things, I've printed out a collage of 4 photos of us enjoying those various things. So for my title card for this layer, I really wanted to use that card that says everyday life, and then it says who, and then where/when. But this card, because it's 4x3, is slightly too wide to be fit onto this panel as a vertical card. So I decided I might as well just turn it on its side and then include an arrow sticker so that it's pointing to where I want the viewer to next go to, which is, as usual, just clockwise from that card. Next, for each of these 4 collage photos, I wanted to include in the center a circle element that kind of represents those activities that we like to do. So for the first one, which is travel, I picked a camera die cut sticker. For the second one, which is beer, I included one of the cup icon stickers from one of the planner kits, and I just adhered that onto one of the circle die cut pieces, just so that it's a bit bigger and more consistent in size with the rest of the icons. For the third photo collage, which is food, I included that adhesive die cut piece that has the knife and the fork. And for the fourth collage, which is games, I actually used one of the close to my heart COVID stamp sets that has something about board games. And I used one of the puzzle pieces from that stamp set to stamp in one of the memory keeping sticker kit labels that is a circle shape. Next, I'm just going to be working on the journaling card for this section, and I decided to pick out this black and white patterned paper card, just trimmed it down to fit onto that panel there. And I knew that the puffy alphabet stickers that usually come in the memory keeping kits would be a bit too big to be used as kind of like journaling points for this card. So I decided to pull out these alphabet stickers from the planner kit instead. And for my title, I'm just using this chipboard piece that says Our Life Right Now, because these are kind of the things we're enjoying right now. For my bullet points, I was debating about using those glitter enamel dots as bullets, but ultimately I decided on using the heart chipboard pieces instead, specifically ones that were green to match the rest of these alphabet stickers, just because I felt like the glitter enamel dots didn't really stand out as much on that black background, and so I'm just going to be going through both of my chipboard piece sets to pick out some hearts to go on this panel here. And that's all of my panels decorated. I liked the fact that I was able to treat each panel as kind of like a separate scrapbooking page. So I had different photos and different embellishments for each one. And I liked that I was able to have kind of like a theme for each one of those 3 layers of panels. For this center hexagon here, I'm just using a couple of adhesive die cut pieces that say "Can't imagine life without you," "Life right now," and "Takes my breath away." And I'm going to be decorating the background a bit with some more messy stamping with that stamp with the plus sign symbols. And then I'm just taking some black string from my stash and kind of just twirling it around in just kind of like a messy random way so that I can have some more texture and interest to my background for these die cut word pieces. To help adhere the string into place, I'm using some of these wood veneer pieces that came in the classified memory keeping kit. There are 2 kind of leafy type wood veneer pieces as well as one that says "Peaceful Moments." And I'm going to be using score tape to adhere these just because I want it to have a bit of extra stick so that not only does it adhere to that hexagon shape, but it also helps adhere the string into place as well. Next, I'm going to be working on decorating the tops of the lids for my explosion boxes, and I did the decorations for these lids during Treasured Memories virtual crop for National Scrapbook Day, and some of the challenges that they had during that virtual crop were like using stripes, use your scraps, make it crooked, and use layers. So that definitely kind of inspired me when I was creating the decorations for these box lids. So for my first box lid, I decided to kind of create a layered background of torn-edged papers out of all of the various scraps that I had left in my stash to create a background. And then create a title from the puffy alphabet stickers as well as those large alphabet stickers that we got in the classified memory keeping kit to spell the phrase "Love grows here" as my title. And part of the difficulty I had when I was decorating the top of this particular box, which is the largest box lid that I have, is that from edge to edge, the hexagon measures about 6 inches wide. And then so from point to point, which is kind of the widest section that I'll be decorating on this panel, which is the largest hexagon lid, that measures 7 inches. And the Cocoa Daisy papers are 6 inches by 8 inches tall, and so most of my scraps are going to be 6 inches wide, and so I was kind of having some difficulty finding pieces, and I didn't want to like bring out any fresh papers just because I did want to use up as many scraps as possible. So to help myself, I did create a template from that cut file that I had created, and then I just trimmed off 1/8 of an inch around all 6 sides so that by the time I'm done with this panel, I'm going to have 1/8 of an inch wide white border around this decorated piece on the top of my hexagon lid. So you'll see that I covered the entire surface of that hexagon template with adhesive. This is using my Tombow Mono permanent adhesive tape runner. And then I'm just going to be adhering down each of these torn strips of paper. And I'm just kind of placing them in kind of wonky angles so that none of them are really parallel to each other. And then I'm just trimming off the extra ends of my pattern papers by turning that hexagon template around and then just cutting along the edges of the hexagon. So this whole process did take some time just to choose the pattern papers, and then sometimes I had cut the strips to the wrong size, so then I had to cut and re-tear some strips of paper. But I do love how this turned out, and I think this just kind of provides a nice opener for my hexagon explosion box, just because it has all of the different colors as well as some of the black and whites that you can see throughout this hexagon blocks. You'll notice that I'm also adding one of those scribbly rub-ons to that top pattern paper there, just because it looked a bit plain compared to the other pattern papers. So I just wanted to add a bit more interest to that section. And I like that with the rub-ons, I was able to kind of peel away that second layer of torn paper that was just below that blue piece of paper there, so that I can tuck the rub-on behind that piece of pattern paper. And that's not something that you'd be able to do with, like, let's say a stamp set, for example. So that was really nice that I was able to do that with this rub-on. Here I'm just working on my title, so I decided to use the dark teal alphabet sticker from the Traveler's Notebook memory keeping kit for my Love Grows, and then for the word here I decided to use the large adhesive backed alphabets that we got in the memory keeping classified kit. And I love being able to mix the different alphabets to create custom titles. You'll notice that I'm using my Tim Holtz design ruler just to make sure that my alphabets are straight, and then using my craft tweezers to position the letters exactly where I want them to go. On the left side of my title, I decided to add these gorgeous gold-leafed green vellum leaf pieces that we got in the Modern Memory Keeping Kit. And fortunately, I realized that if you add some adhesive kind of where the gold leafing is, instead of where that more transparent green part is, then you won't be able to see the adhesive as much. So I was able to add these leaves onto the page without too much hassle and without being able to see the adhesive from the front side. Next, I'm just adding some stitching detail to the bottom of this hexagon just to kind of provide a bit more texture, as well as to adhere those pieces down a bit more securely. I just used my handheld stitching tool to do that, and then I flipped it over and secured the back with some score tape just to prevent the threads from coming loose. Just adding a few chipboard elements here. I liked the heart chipboard because that signifies love, and then I also liked that arrow chipboard piece just because that's pointing towards here, which is inside the explosion box. After that, I'm just using some score tape to adhere this panel onto the top of my first lid, and that's the first lid done. For my second hexagon box lid, I decided to use this oversized tag that came in the classified memory keeping kit, just to create a background kind of like at an angle on the hexagon, and to kind of visualize how it's going to look like on the hexagon. I just used the leftover white piece of paper that I had cut that hexagon out of as a window to see exactly what angle I wanted to place that tag so that it looked nice on my hexagon. So you'll see me use that window as kind of like a guide to see what my end result is going to look like. And from there, I just flip the piece around to trace approximately where I wanted my tag to be so that I could apply adhesive to that section of the tag and then adhere that down to my hexagon piece. After that, I just trimmed off the overhanging edges of that tag. And the title for this section is going to be Our Story. So I grabbed the large alphabet stickers from the classified memory keeping kit, and that's going to spell our, and then later on I'll add some puffy alphabet stickers on top of that to spell story. I decided to use another one of those scribbly stitched rub-ons kind of to bridge the tag to transition to just that plain white cardstock there, and I thought that added a really nice touch. And I'm going to be clustering a couple more of those vellum leaves behind the word our as well. And I put one of them specifically to be overhanging the bottom edge of the hexagon, just so that it creates a bit more of an organic flow from the bottom of that hexagon there. just adhering the word hour to that bottom edge of the hexagon. And here I'm trying to use my hand stitcher to add a bit more stitching detail to the bottom of that hexagon, but unfortunately it didn't work for some reason. I think just because that tag plus the white cardstock was a bit too thick. So I tried it again, it didn't work, and ultimately I just hand stitched it using like some thread and a needle. Unfortunately, the hand stitching tool did kind of make a bit of a scratch onto the bottom left corner of that large striped tag, so I just used one of the large enamel dots just to help cover that up a bit. After I added the word story with some of the green puffy alphabet stickers from the Modern Memory Keeping Kit, I decided to use these glitter enamel dots and just sprinkle them all over this hexagon. So I started with kind of like larger enamel dots towards the left side, and then going towards kind of like smaller dots on the right side. And then I just chose colors that were kind of corresponding to some of the striped sections on that tag. So going from like a darker teal color on the top to like a darker forest green color on the bottom. After that, I added a couple of chipboard heart pieces to the left side of that tag, and that completes this panel. Just adding some score tape to the back, and that goes on the top of my hexagon box lid. For my last lid, I'm just going to keep it relatively simple. I'm going to be covering the top half with this leftover pattern paper that I have from the Traveler's Notebook, one of the cards that came in that kit. And then the bottom half is going to be covered with this green graph paper here. After I adhered those two pieces of pattern paper down and cut off all the edges, I decided to use the top portion of this striped tag that I had used in my previous box lid, just as an additional layer behind my title piece, which is going to be this chipboard piece that says Perfect Little Moments. In addition to that, I've grabbed one of these oval label stickers that came in the classified memory keeping kit, and one of the tab adhesive back die cut pieces that came in one of the kits, and the last wood veneer piece that I had from also the classified memory keeping kit. And I also have this hexagon piece that has a hexagon cut out from it. That's just because I had cut one of the hexagon pieces at the wrong size. So when I cut the smaller piece, I had this leftover frame here, and I just decided to use it as an additional layering piece for this box lid. The oval label sticker does have a hole on either side that you can add a brad through, so I just took one of my Tim Holtz brads just from my stash to adhere this label onto the panel there. I added one of the coral chipboard hearts to the center of that oval label, and because I had another tiny pink heart under the title Perfect Little Moments, I decided to take one of the rub-on stickers that also was a pink heart and just rub that over the tab to give that kind of like 3 spots where I have that pink heart. After that, I'm just using some score tape to adhere my wood veneer piece as well as that chipboard piece onto my panel. The chipboard piece usually comes with adhesive on it, but I had peeled off the backing for because I wanted to use it for a different project previously, but then changed my mind. And after that, I'm just going to use some score tape to adhere this panel onto my box lid, and that is my explosion box completely done. I will admit that this explosion box took me a long time to make, like several hours. It's definitely not something that you can do in just one night, but I am so happy with how this turned out, and I just know that this is going to be a keepsake to keep for years to come. It's sitting on my shelf, it's like a decorational piece, and it's full of memories that we've had over the past 2 years that I am so happy to be able to document. If you're looking for a super special gift to give to a loved one or a friend, consider giving this project a try, and it is a long process, but if you have any questions, as usual, feel free to comment down below or just message me on Instagram. You'll also find some still photos on my Instagram account too, Shoe Puff Creations, just in case you want to check out the details of how I decorated some of these panels. If you liked this video, then make sure to give it a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed for notifications on any of my future process videos. Thanks so much for watching.